In this video, I would like to show you how you can replace the screen on a device like the one just here. So here is our replacement screen. Now, not only are we having to distort the new screen into place, we're also having to take into account things like overlapping fingers as well as rounded corners. So that's what this layer mask is all about just here. Now guys, if this is a more complicated example than you need, or if you find that the things I show around smart objects and free transform is a little bit too quick for you at the start of this video, you may want to review the other video that I just made. And in that video, I stepped you through this example just here, which is much simpler, where we are just doing a straight up screen replacement. We are just manipulating the corners, no masking required. That's it, we're done. Okay, so let's close both of these files up and let's create this example from scratch. So out here on my desktop, I have the two files we need, phone and city. So I'll just drag the phone image in here like so. Now the city image, guys, we need this inside of our phone image as a smart object. We've got a couple of options here. We could open things up and copy and paste. We could actually, for example, with our phone image just here, we could come up under File, Place Embedded, and we could place the city image in there like so. The simplest way to do that, with the phone image already inside of Photoshop, if we just grab the city image, drag it straight in. If we press return or enter at this point, or hit the little tick mark just up here, we will now have the image placed inside of Photoshop, inside of this image as a smart object. So that's what this little icon is just down here. So there's our new screen. It's coming as a smart object, ready for transformation. So let's come up to Edit Free Transform. The keyboard shortcut is Command or Control T, which is what I'll be using moving forward, guys. So Free Transform. To manipulate the corners individually, hold down the Command key on a Mac, the Control key on a Windows machine, and like I say, we can then independently move those corners. Okay, so let's get these things roughly into place, and then just press the Enter or Return key to commit that like so. Okay, so not too bad, clearly a little bit rough. So let's zoom in and let's take finer control just now. So Command or Control T, get us back into Free Transform. Now, it's kind of hard to get this aligned nicely because obviously the new screen, the city layer just here, is completely opaque and completely obscuring the layer below. So, nice trick to know is, even while you are in Free Transform, you can actually come over within the layers panel and adjust the opacity of this layer down. So if I bring it down to something like 80%, I can now see through that to the layer below. And now if I continue to transform this layer, I am getting a much better alignment with the layer below. This is looking great. Guys, I'll move a little quickly so as not to bore you to death. So let's get those corners roughly into place. Commit that. And then I'll just bring that opacity back up to 100%. So let's zoom out and have a bit of a look just here. Main thing I want to do, guys, is make sure that we don't actually have any of the layer below poking out. So that's looking pretty good. Again, not perfect, but that's looking pretty good for now. Okay, so obviously the next big thing we need to do now is to round off these corners and take into account these overlapping fingers. And we will do that by using a layer mask. So we have our new layer selected just here. So at the bottom of the layers panel, come down to this little icon just here, add layer mask, click on it, and it will add a layer mask to this layer. Now by default, it comes in as a solid white. Now in the world of Adobe, guys, and masks, white reveals and black conceals. So this is a layer full of white pixels, which means that we can see the entirety of this graphic. Now, if we start to paint black on this layer mask, it will start to obscure parts of this layer. So that's what we're going to do in a minute, guys. We're going to start painting in black those little areas such as the corners and the fingers. But the first thing we're going to do is take a quick 2-minute detour, and I will show you pretty much everything that you need to know in terms of painting inside of Photoshop. So let's create a new document. The size I don't care. Let's press B for our brush tool. The D key gives us our default colors of black and white. Guys, when we're painting with masks, we generally want to be using a pure black or a pure white. So D is great for bringing up pure black, pure white. And then the X key allows us to toggle back and forth between the foreground color and the background color. So that's great if we need to alternate quickly between painting with black and or white on the mask. We can just press the X key to jump back and forth between those. Okay, so we've got our brush tool, we've got black as our foreground color. If I just paint out here, that's what we've got going on just here. So let me explain a few important settings that we need to know. If we right mouse click, we can see size here and hardness here. These are the two major options that we may need to change. So the size is pretty obvious. If I drag this all the way to the left or quite far away to the left, I get a smaller brush, right mouse click, drag that up and drag on the canvas. We've obviously got a larger brush. So that's the size. Now this hardness here, think of it like this. When it's all the way to the right, it's a very hard edge brush. When you bring it all the way to the left, you effectively have a very soft brush. So if I paint like that, there you go. With a hardness of 0, we have a very soft brush. Let me just bring the hardness back up to 100% because I want to point out, those of you with a keen eye, if I zoom in just here, you may have noticed that we've got this weird jagged edge going on. What is that? Because you often don't want to see that. You actually want a nice crisp edge. What's actually going on just there is if I come up under the brush settings panel, if I come down to this option just here, spacing, by default it's set to 25%. If I bring that all the way to the left and make it 1%, and if I draw a similar line, let's zoom in and check them out. Fantastic, look at that beautiful clean edge just there compared to what we were getting just a moment ago. So that one trips a lot of people up there, guys. So brush settings, come down to spacing and drop that down to 1% if you're wanting to drag out a nice hard edge line, but not have that jagged edge. Oh, also another cool trick to know, guys. If you hold down the shift key when you're using the brush, you can actually draw yourself nice straight lines between brush clicks. I'll show you what I mean. So if I just click here, and if I just then come over here and click, no big surprises, you get 2 dots, right? But watch what happens if I now hold down the shift key and click over here. It actually draws a direct line between those 2 points. So if I, for example, click a point, hold down the shift key and then click another point, I get a nice line drawn directly between them. So that's really good if I'm wanting to draw lines, which we'll be doing in just a minute. Okay guys, I know that was a quick whirlwind tour of painting. I hope it wasn't too fast, but let's now jump back into our graphic just here, come back to our layers panel and make sure we are targeting the mask. Make sure you're targeting the mask, guys, or else you'll end up painting somewhere else and possibly doing so destructively. Okay, so we've got our paintbrush selected. We are targeting the mask. Let's zoom in nice and close in this corner just here. We've got black. I'm going to make the brush a little bit smaller. I'm just using the keyboard shortcuts there, guys, of the left and the right square bracket keys. You don't have to remember that. Of course, you could just right mouse click and change the size there like so. Now notice our hardness is also up around 100%. And let's just paint out that corner. Okay, now I'm painting with the mouse here, so that looks kind of terrible. Of course, we would do this more slowly, preferably maybe with a Wacom tablet. But I want to show you a really nice trick, guys, when it comes to doing corners. So you can see that this is kind of imprecise and this is kind of a pain in the butt. Also, don't forget we can play our little trick just here where we bring down the opacity a little bit so we can see what's going on underneath. But I'm going to show you a nice cool little trick here. I'm actually going to just paint out the corner and then I'm going to switch to white. Remember, I'm going to press X to bring up white as my foreground color, increase my brush size, and then what I can do is just click once to paint the corner back in. And now I have a beautiful rounded corner. And then what I can do is I can just click to clean that edge up just a little bit. And there we go. We've now got a beautiful corner there, guys. I'll just show you that again on another example just here. So if I switch to black and paint out the corner, if I then switch back to white, I can then click in here to paint back in the corner and then just clean up those little areas at the edge like so. Again, not precise, guys. I'm just trying to move a little bit quickly so as not to bore you, like I said before. Okay, so these corners are actually looking pretty decent. Of course, my alignment's not great there, but you get the idea. So let's come down to these fingers just now here, guys. Now, you've kind of already seen everything that I need to show, but let's reinforce this by dropping the opacity down a little bit so I can see those fingers. And this shift key trick I showed you a moment ago is going to come in handy just now. Let's see, pressing the X key to bring up black. Let's reduce the size of this brush. And you can see, guys, if I was to paint through here, that's going to cut away within our layer mask. Or cut away within the layer, via the layer mask, that is. So now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to use that shift key trick I showed you a moment ago. So if I click once here, and I've got the shift key held down now. So what I'm doing now is rather than dragging my mouse, I'm basically just drawing a series of short lines. Again, working a little quickly here, guys. You can see I've got a little bit of overlap just there. So I might switch back to my white and then just paint that area out. Very nice. So now that I've painted that outline in, I can switch to black and fill in that area just there like so. Okay, so let's bring the opacity of this layer back up to 100% and see what we've got. Okay, that's not looking particularly great just down there. We can, of course, click inside of there and clean it up. Maybe switch to black and clean that fingertip up just a little bit there like so. So that's it there, guys. You get the idea. So what I might do is I might just close these files at this point and just open up that original example that I showed you just there. And here we go. So when you spend a little bit of time, you can get yourself a much better looking result there like so. Oh, a nice little trick to know as well, guys, if you didn't already. If you actually want to see the contents of your layer mask, if you hold down the Alt or the Option key, it will actually show you the black and white and shades of grey within the layer mask. So just hold down the Alt or the Option key and click on the mask again to hide that. Guys, when you actually are in that mode as well, you can actually come in here and paint as well. So, for example, if you have some odd little spots that you're finding it hard to change without seeing the mask in this mode, you can do it that way. And another cool little trick to know is if you hold down the Shift key and click on a mask, you can temporarily disable it. That's what this big red X is just here. So you can see the mask is currently hidden. Again, just hold down the Shift key and click again on the mask to bring that mask back. Okay, there guys. That was a bit of a whirlwind tour of a few major features within Photoshop, but I hope it helps you with your screen replacements. Catch you later.